How's it going, David from Collectors? Not Collectors Comics. I am from Collectors Comics. David from Comic Book Investments, and I'm here with Marston Hefner. He is the son of Hugh Hefner, and if you don't know who Hugh Hefner is, then I don't know what have you been reading lately. But anyways, so he is a collector, and I figured I'll interview him, and we'll talk about basically what it was like growing up as a kid in the Playboy mansion and stuff like that. And we'll dive into collecting. Now, Marston,
Maybe a Playboy issue #1, or
yeah, we can start with the have you ever had I'm sure you've seen it, Playboy issue #1.
So my dad had like Playboys, like a cabinet in his room, and there were Playboys in consecutive order, and there were like a few issues of Playboy #1s, and my brother has them in like maybe near mint. I don't know. He says they're good condition, but he doesn't collect comics, so like, what does he know? But
so I'll just go ahead, and why don't you introduce yourself? Talk a little bit about yourself, what's going on, and so people can get familiar with you and get to know you.
So I've been watching comic book collecting and investing for maybe since 2021, around COVID era. And like, I'm obsessed with these channels. Comic Book Investments was like one of the first channels I discovered. And I really loved the interview, especially like the little tab live interviews, and the one with you and your dad. And so this is like a dream come true. This is so cool.
Well, thank you. That's awesome. So why did you kind of get into collecting? Why all of a sudden in 2021? I know your dad was somewhat of a collector of different things as well.
Yeah, my dad was super into like, what would it be called? Like Marvel, Monsters, Universal, whatever they call that stuff.
Universal Monsters, yeah.
Yeah, Universal Monsters. So there were the black and white films that we grew up watching. He loved Flash Gordon, stuff that's like that now has lost its value. Like I was looking at these Flash Gordon gorgeous ray guns from the 20s, and they're like $1,000. And it's just wild to think that these were like, Flash Gordon was a big IP.
Yeah.
And the just time didn't work well for them, but he loved that stuff, and nobody really else loved it. Like he was conserving old black and white films. Did you grow up watching black and white films?
Yes, I did. So my dad was also into all that kind of stuff. Older than my dad was born 56, and so he grew up in like the 60s, right? So you'd think like, oh, that's what he would like. But he actually was more into stuff, from like the 30s and 40s and 50s. That's like, he was into that kind of stuff. And so I grew up with watching all that stuff and all that kind of stuff.
So I love watching black and white stuff. And my dad was conserving like these films because nobody else wanted to really take care of them. And so he collected films, he collected toys and stuff like that, but I wouldn't say he was like a major collector. I got into it from Pokemon, and I don't know why. There was just some magic that happened during COVID. I think everybody
there's a lot of hype with it. Now, so you're born in 1990. I think Pokemon, I know base set came out in what, 99, I think was base set.
The 899, yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think when the video game was, because I got the video game when it was new. And then I got the cards. I remember buying the cards new. And so I remember this one. This is gonna sound mean, but I remember this one time. I was a little older. I think in 99. So I was like 14, 15-ish. And so I was a little older. So I knew about like value. And so I would go to the local like card shop, and I would trade kids for for good ones, and I would give them not so good ones. And I remember I traded a Doug Trio, which is not a holo, and it's just a star, like a rare. And I traded it for a Charizard. And then mom came up to me and she's like, "Hey, how dare you trade that back? You know what you're doing. You're like an old kid." And then the kids started crying. "No, I love the Doug Trio." And I was like, "I can't help you. He loves it." Like, and she's like, she looks at me, "You're a terrible person."
Your mom or his mom?
It was the kid's mom. I traded the kid, just a random kid there. I traded him a Doug, was it Doug Trio, Diglett, whatever. I don't know. It was like a star. I don't know what at the time it was probably worth like $5, and I traded him for a Charizard that was worth like $25.
Yeah,
and so
that was just we didn't care. Like we were just trying to get the best value. I mean, I remember seeing like an Ivysaur that nobody else had, and I traded this girl, my common Ivysaur for a better Ivysaur, and I didn't care. I just thought that was like the best part of my collection. Turns out that none of them were worth anything, but like back in the day, the kids, it was like the Wild West rules, and the parents were the sheriffs, I guess.
Yeah.
The TG owner really came out so far ahead. Like he got so much money from us kids.
Oh, yeah.
The local trading card shop.
I think it's isn't Pokemon owned by Wizard of the Coast, which is the same as Magic?
Yeah,
I believe so.
But it's not WotC anymore. I think it's like Game Freaks or something because base set they say is WotC, and then somebody else. I think WotC doesn't do it anymore. Could be wrong.
I don't know. I haven't really followed the latest stuff. Do you have like what's the oldest one in your collection?
I got the Disco Blastoise. This is crazy. Why are we talking about Pokemon, bro?
Oh, well, I don't know. We just started talking about Pokemon.
Okay, so now I'm wondering what you're now. Okay, I can use your investor mind. So I got it's called a Disco Blastoise, and so like base set Blastoise, we all. Yeah. So this is like the prototype. So it's what could have been the Blastoise that was like mass produced. But there's only like 20 to 30 of these in the world, and there's 15 of them graded right now. And I purchased a CGC2 for $9.3 thousand.
9.3, so 9,300.
And
I don't even know that. I don't even know that one.
We don't need to get into but it's kind of cool that it's just it's like a prototype. So it's like the card that could have been, but never.
So this came out technically prior to the base set.
I think it technically came out between first edition, like the holofoil we all know, and they were thinking about doing like a different holofoil pattern for it, and it didn't. So it wasn't like the very first. It was between. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it was like a prototype, because I know that with Magic they come out with prototype cards for everything, and then they play, and then they see what works and doesn't work, and there's lots of prototypes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So like obviously your dad is Hugh Hefner, and did you grow up in the mansion?
Yeah. I grew up right next door. So there was the mansion, which was my home, and then my parents got separated, and he purchased the sister house made by the same architect, like right next door, and then they shared the same wall, and then I would
back and so weird. Okay, yeah, I was wondering, so like when these parties are going on, are you just like sitting there playing Nintendo as a little kid, and everyone's just like getting wasted doing drugs and partying it up?
That's pretty much it, actually. Like while like the New Year's Eve party was going on, like my happy place was playing Turok on my little N64, and then
I love Turok. You get the boomerang with not boomerang, sorry, the bow and arrow with, you get the different type of arrows, and you shoot you kind of like snipe them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
played for.
I'm more of a minigun, just spray and pray and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's crazy. What a different experience from mine. My childhood.
What was your childhood like?
Definitely no drinking and parties. That's for sure. Zero
Yeah.
of that.
Well,
Absolute zero.
same here. I didn't. Well, what about in high school? You must have partied and stuff, no?
Yeah, that's after my parents got divorced. So like my parents were like super, super strict, like
Hmm.
extremely strict. But then after they got divorced, uh, I kind of like it was more of like they just didn't keep an eye on me as much. So I
Yeah.
definitely partied more. But I will have to say, my wife asked me to tell you this is well, actually, it's from me, but she reminded me to say this. I'd like to thank you and your family because if it wasn't for the TV show The Girls Next Door, my wife never would have got her boob job back then, whenever that show was out. So
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
she watched that show and then
Yes.
she liked it. And then so she went and got a boob job. I think she was 18 or 19 at the time. And then, yeah, so I
And
met
it
her.
must, it must have worked out. I hope it
Yeah,
would.
it did work out. Yeah. So I mean, we met many years later, but so it's kind of like we have like this tie together almost.
That's the sixth, yeah, the sixth person or whatever. I know what
Yeah.
you're saying. Yeah.
Were you around when they were filming that show?
I was, yes, but they didn't include me in the filming really. I knew like Holly, Kendra, Bridget, and I still am good friends with them. But like it's funny because my wife was a big fan of that show too, and
Mm.
so it's just like it's wild.
Did you guys meet through one of the parties or anything like that?
No, no, we met on Bumble.
Mm. I just read a stat that it's like showing like different ways of meeting people,
Yeah,
and like as the years progress, everything's just like meeting through friends, through family members, through a bar, through a local gathering, and it's just like boom, and it's like meeting online, just like straight up. It's like most
yeah.
people just meet online now.
Most of my friends have been made, or not most of them, but a lot of them, yeah, are made. Like I haven't even seen them before. They're online
Mm.
friends.
Yeah, I
How's
mean
your how? Yeah,
that's just how it works now because it's like if like for example doing this YouTube, it's like I meet people all the time. I meet people like you, and then you have like a common interest as opposed to being like, oh, I'm in a neighborhood, who lives next door to me, what are you into? I guess nothing that I'm into, but our common interest is we live next to each other and now we're friends. Like that's how it normally is.
it sounds like we get along in a similar way where it's like hobbies, like bond friendships for both of us. Because a
Hmm.
lot of my friends have been made through like video games and yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what is, I know that you have a huge like collection in giant size X-Men
Yes.
and
And
one,
Hulk 181.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
Hulk 181, Giant Side X-Men. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that would is that like what's your most valuable comic?
My most valuable comic. Well, I have. So I have, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Okay, so before the Turtles first appeared in Turtles #1, they appeared in an ad in Gobbledygook. It was this Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird who created them. Created this like they made it themselves. So they like Xeroxed it themselves and put together the pages and made a Xerox and sold like 50 copies. I have Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird's original copies signed by them. Plus, I have the original Xerox that they used to Xerox copies to make them. So technically, I can make more if I wanted to. But I mean, that right there, it's hard to put a price on. I would
Yeah.
say over 100 grand. But as terms of comic books, I have an AF-15, Amazing Fantasy 15 for Spider-Man in, uh, it'll probably be like 5. So that's probably like 50 to 75,000. I'd have to look up exactly, but somewhere around there. That's
Yeah.
probably my biggest one.
Yeah, but you like to hold huge positions and things. It's not like one single big puppy. You like a bunch of
Yeah.
cute little puppies that are worth like a
Yeah.
shit ton, and then like you I remember your dad said like, "Oh, you're cornering the market," might be the word for it, and you didn't even think about it that way. You were just like, "No, I just like having a bunch of them or something."
Well, so the Hulk 181 and the Giant Size X-Men #1, those are usually Hulk 181 is the biggest, most expensive Bronze Age comic book. Giant Size is usually second or third, somewhere in there. But so you remember how you're saying that Flash Gordon was expensive. Now the stuff gets cheaper and cheaper. Well, because Flash Gordon came out in, I believe, the 1930s and never really translated future, right? It didn't turn into Superman, where he's still here today making movies, t-shirts, and all that kind of stuff. So what happens is the people that like Flash Gordon are older people that are dying off, and it doesn't have any new blood in there. So Wolverine from Hulk 181 and also Giant Size X-Men, he's super popular from 1974. That's when he came out. So if you think about it, if you're like 10, that means you're born in like 64. So you're, probably in your 60s. And then it translates all the way till today. So you have a huge swath of people loving Wolverine, new fans of Wolverine that are buying in. And that's what you need to make the comic value go higher and higher, is you need new people jumping in.
Right.
So in my personal taste, like AF-15 is out of reach for a lot of people. But when I started buying Hulk 181s, it wasn't that out of reach. It's become more and more so in terms of expensiveness. But in my opinion, buying that book is something that is, in terms of investment, like a very safe and very like low risk, high reward investment into the future.
I have a kind of related question that interests me, because you said it was within reach.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we all have this idea of like what's within reach, what we can save. Maybe it's like $500 a month. Maybe it's 50, whatever it is. But it's like that idea of what's within reach. And it's like, you could have like a decade where you save up to get the Pokemon cute little Pikachu trophy card where he's holding up the trophy and he's like smiling so big. And maybe even a decade wouldn't be enough for me. But it's like what does it mean to you, like within reach? Because does that mean that you were making a certain amount each month, and then like every 3 months you were purchasing 181, or was it that like you were saving for 2 years and then purchasing a 181? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So me, it's a little different because I'm a dealer. So I'm constantly buying. Like I'm never not buying and never not selling. And so it's more of just making a choice to not sell the Hulk 181s when they come passing by me. And it's like, oh, normally I'd sell it, but I'm like, I think this is better to keep it. I think in the long run, these are good ones to keep. And realistically, I was going to keep most of it, and I probably will keep most of them. I have like 40 copies. But like I'm going to sell a few, but I'll probably keep most of them. And in my mind, and I practice what I preach. So anything I say, I'm literally will do the same thing. And I'm going to keep these for retirement. That's my end game for these Hulk 181s, is I'm going to keep them. And when I retire, I'll make 5x, 10x, whatever they're at the time. I know they're going to be higher than they are now, money on them. And that's basically what I'm going to use. I'm going to use that as like kind of like a retirement. And that's how I look at like my personal collection. There's some things in there that I love that, may never sell, but like a Hulk 181, I don't need 40 copies. I need one. So
easy question to ask, and it's something that's been peeving me so much, is like, okay, if I sell like a stock, there's only 18% capital gains. Like that's it. If I sell a comic book, I've never sold a comic book, but there's capital gains. Is there capital gains? I mean, like,
so the way it works with a comic or anything, they passed a new law that anything, I think it's over like $600 that you sell through like eBay or a website or something like that, they have to send you a 1099. And basically that's just considered income. So let's say you had a normal job and you're making $55,000 a year and you sell a comic worth $10,000. Well, now you just made $65,000. So if you can find a way to write off taxes in a certain way, like you donate stuff, whatever, I don't know however you talk to a tax person. So it's just income. So it's not capital gains tax. This counted as income. So with me,
like 20% in Oregon, or it would be like 20%, right?
So no. So it's just like taxes. So there's different tax brackets. So I don't know what the brackets are, but each bracket you go up, it's like, I think the top bracket's like 45%, but it's the way it works is just income. So the first, I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but I think the first $12,000 you make, whether you have a job or you're selling stuff, whatever it is tax free. So you don't pay any taxes on that. So if you literally just, live at home, you don't have any bills whatsoever, you don't make any income whatsoever, and you sell something for like 10 grand, it's just income. You made 10 grand that year. And I believe it's like 12 grand, your first 12 grand you make is tax free. So it helps, people that don't make that much money. But if you're making, 100 grand a year, and then you sell some comics and cards and you make an extra 10 grand, now you made 110,000 that year.
So you
and
just
so
add your income to your income, like your job would be, it would like be in the same income bracket.
Yeah. So it's just
that would be a high. That seems like that would be high. Like you would get taxed like 20% or something.
Me personally,
I guess it would be because I live in Oregon or California, but maybe if you live in Texas, it would be like nothing. I guess it would vary.
That's the I don't know about your state income tax, but I know for like federal income tax, it depends on how much you make. It really depends on like your job and adding all that. I mean, I'm just going to say get a tax person, but it's not like capital gains tax. It's more just income. It's like counted as income. They send you a 1099-K, I believe what it is. So yeah,
I feel like people could learn a lot from this question, because it's like capital gains versus simply income. I mean, you would probably want to sell it on eBay so that you don't suffer a buyer's and seller's premium. And now I know you have an auction house, so I rescind that statement. But like,
well, we don't have buyer's premium.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's just a seller's fee. So just how on eBay, it's like after they put in all their payment process and stuff, it's almost like 15%. So ours is 5%. So
which is incredible.
Yeah. So I mean, here's the thing. Here's the crazy thing. Back in the day, eBay used to be like 6-7%. So and the thing is, it's a percentage. So as things get more expensive, eBay's making more money. But the thing is, they want to make even more money because they have a board and they have to go like this. Well, how are we going to increase profits this year? Why don't we just raise fees? Sounds good. And they'll keep doing that. And I've noticed other auction houses increasing their fees. So
and the 1099 is not included in the eBay fee. So you're getting taxed and you're getting the fee from eBay at the same time. And eBay's fee is like, I don't know what it is.
Almost 15%. They have a payment processing fee. Their normal fee is a little over 10%.
You're getting effed, bro. As a collector, you're getting effed. I mean, it's really PayPal. Like, if you can't find a way to do PayPal goods and services, it's like, man, I'm not an influencer, like in terms of comic book collecting. So I'm getting like 30% of my shit taken or something. That's why I wanted to come to you. I was like asking, like, these percentages are crazy, because like I have an AF-15. I purchased it when I timed the market. No, I didn't, but like I got it when it was really dumb, like 50 grand or something. And when it was good for me. And now that the market's like sort of a little bit happier, like, oh, baby's crying, but wife's going to take care of baby. Now that the market's getting a little bit happier and it's going to get better, obviously we know that.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, these percentages seem insane, like that, like the eBay percentages, and then on top of that, the income. I mean,
yep. It's definitely hard, like being like a dealer, because then it's like you have to buy it at a certain rate, and then you have all these fees on top of fees and everything like that. Yeah, that's why we're creating our site. I mean, right now you can sell on our site for free. Our 5% is only if you give us the stuff, and we have to do everything. So if you just want to list your stuff, you can list it for free and sell it for free. And however you want to deal with, taking payment, whether it's PayPal, whether it's Venmo, Zelle, whatever you want to do, a check, then you can just do it yourself. you know, but if you want us to sell it, then it's 5%
Yeah.
picture list and all stuff. But yeah. Oh, I saw that you got a baby pug.
I do have a baby pug, show quality.
Yeah.
Anna's like obsessed with pugs. So
Oh,
there was
I have
no
two
way
French
that,
bulldogs. So,
yeah, similar. There's no
mhm.
way that I would have left LA. Like I was like, hun, we need to go into nature and enjoy like that vibe. And she said, okay, if because she could get a pug. We couldn't have a pug in like a rent controlled apartment. So
What? Where in Oregon? Because I used to work in Oregon, or in the city.
oh, we're in the city pretty much. We're like 15 minutes out of the city.
Okay. Do you know where Jansen Beach is?
Yes, but I've never been.
Okay.
Yes.
So I used to work there. It doesn't exist anymore. I think it's a Big Fives now, but I used to work in. It's called Copeland Sports. I was in the skateboard department, even though I didn't skateboard.
You don't skateboard.
Yeah. Well, the manager was like, I don't want a skateboarder to work there because then he'll just give all of his friends discounts. Since you don't skateboard, you don't have any skateboarding friends. And I'm like, yeah, that's true.
So ridiculous though. Because you got to get the culture. Like you got to have the skateboarders behind the register so then you can like talk shop.
Well, I would make the skateboards. I would put on the grip tape in the trucks and everything like that. I was taught all that, but I was also in bands, so I kind of had that like punk look anyways. So I kind of fit. I just didn't actually skateboard.
Yeah.
So
are you your passion like music and comics, or is one like a business / grind / like that kind of fulfillment? Or
so I would say I love comic books and superheroes and all that kind of stuff. Music though is a much bigger passion. Like if someone came and said, "Hey, David, you can be a successful comic book dealer, or you could be a successful musician," I would take successful musician over this. So this is a job, but you know I happen to like my job. But and I also like the business side of things. Like I'm definitely into that. So there's like those things. So I mean, ideally, if I could just go on tour and do that, I would love that. But
really, you would love touring?
yeah,
Wow.
I would just like to be able to. This is all I want. I don't care where it is. If I could just go to a place where people want to see me and like my songs and I get to play for them, I don't care if it's 100 people, 500 or 5,000. I would love that. But that's not the case. It's more of like begging my friends and family to show up at a show. There's a couple people there like who is this band? I don't really care. And so
Bro,
it's been like that my whole life.
I'm a writer and I've been a writer for like 12 years. And like being Hugh Hefner's son doesn't fill the seats. So like I completely understand it's fucking hard to get people to give a shit about like any sort of writing or
100%, just to even care. Especially like my music is like free. All you have to do is click listen, and then that's even like hard for people.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. What have you written?
I wrote a short story collection, and now I'm writing like high fantasy. I go like into these obsessive phases. So like, I love Tolkien, Harry Potter, Narnia, just like. So I'm like writing that right now, but it's like, my goal is to make that like a lifetime thing. It's like I like the idea of like having a project that like spans your whole life and just like building that one thing. Like that's like crazy cool from like when I think of it. But yeah, so that's the idea.
Have you written any books or anything?
Yeah, I wrote a short story collection that came out last year or 2022. And I hired a publicist and it was such a waste of money. I mean, really like what you're doing and like what I'm doing with like Instagram and stuff is like publicists are obsolete. Like you got to build your own thing.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a gift and a curse because like now it's like you have to do everything yourself but there's no gatekeeper of like before, like
Yeah.
a publicist or a record label or a book deal. There's no, you can go out and you can make your own record or own book and sell it to people. And you actually don't need that many people as opposed to before, because there's so many people with their hands in your cookie jar, just trying to take, 10%, 5%, stuff like that. And so you have to sell a whole bunch. Now it's like, yeah, you can, if you have like 1,000, 10,000 fans that buy your stuff at full price, that could be enough to sustain you.
For that way. I think it's
What?
because it's like, it's hard to get discovered, but if you like just build, like you've built a brand, if you build a brand, then people are interested. I mean, at least from my experience, it's like, if I talk about my life or my collecting, then people are also interested in the writing as well. And it's like, that's been the best thing for my art, compared to like, I wasn't on social media at all and I was only focusing on my craft, and there's no audience. Like there's just no,
Yeah. It's just, everything's just so oversaturated these days. That's the kind of thing. So what else do you do? Like, other than writing? Like, is that your source of income?
My source of income is OnlyFans.
OnlyFans.
Yeah. Which makes sense if my father's Hugh Hefner, if you think about it. Makes sense a little bit more than if he wasn't.
What, like, if your dad, what would he think of OnlyFans? Like,
He's so upset.
He would be upset?
I think so.
Like, he wouldn't like it? I mean, I've watched a couple documentaries on him, but I don't, like, obviously him personally, so it's different.
Yeah.
Like, so would he find OnlyFans as like distasteful?
I don't know, dude. He was like, he's old school. He was like 80 years old,
Yeah.
He believed in like the sexual revolution, but like there were like blind spots, especially with someone of that age. So
let's take the internet. And when the internet started coming out in like the mid 90s through the later 90s, early 2000s, so he was around that when like porn really took off. Like, did he have
porn? He
hated it?
Yeah. But by the way, the only reason why I'm on OnlyFans is because I like Pokemon so much. Like, collecting got me to OnlyFans because I wanted to buy dope shit. So I signed on to OnlyFans so I could buy my dope fucking Pokemon collection.
So I like the business side of things. So can I ask you, like, business side of OnlyFans?
Sure.
Like, so how long you been on OnlyFans?
Since
March. So almost a year-ish. Was it like hard to start making money, or did you start making money right away? Or
it wasn't hard. It was really easy because I went viral. I just got really lucky, but also having my last name helped a lot.
Yeah.
So I think, like most people, it's like a grind, and for me, it's just like, this is amazing. What is wow, I'm making so much money. What the fuck? Like, so I got lucky, really.
Yeah. That's kind of like, I see people on like YouTube and stuff, and being a YouTuber, it just, definitely 100% I'm jealous. But I'll see people, they'll do like a video and it's like their second or third video gets like 1 million, 2 million views. And then like, now the pace of their YouTube channel is easy because you've already gotten that viral video that makes it really easy to go. And it's in the same space I'm in, like comic books. And me, I'm like grinding all the time. And I'm like, oh,
2 million views on comic books?
What?
2 million on comic books?
Yeah, there's this guy, I don't know him at all. I just randomly saw his channel. It's like Matt with 3 T's or something.
He makes shit up, be honest.
What?
He makes shit up. He'll be like, this is a $3 million comic.
No, it's not like that. It's more of like a documentary style. It's more of like, he'll talk about like Todd McFarlane in like a documentary type of thing, or this comic, or he did one on like Rob Liefeld. And it's like, it gets like 5 million views. And I'm like, that made your channel so much easier. Every post you do now, every video is just gets hundreds of thousands, not millions of views. So
here's the fucked up part is that when you reach that point, then other people imagine that like you're worth more, like your value is higher, So like they will see 5 million views, and it doesn't matter what content it is, they'll be like, I'm gonna watch this fucking video.
Yep.
And it's like, so there's that. But then also I've been doing what you've been doing, but like I was even less successful at it. Like I was doing Twitter and advertising my stories, and it would get like 18 likes was like a good story. And I'm on YouTube as well, and my YouTube gets like 30 to 200 views. And so what I find, and you can disagree or say whatever you feel, but like smart people, creative people who are willing to like work or follow their passion, like something hits. Like your comic book dealing hit. Like you have way more wealth than what you started off with. And for me, like OnlyFans, like it hit. And the other shit, like you're in a comic book YouTube channel. From what I've seen, that niche is so small. Like Alpha Investments, who's like top dog. I love Alpha Investments.
Yeah, Rudy.
He gets like 40,000 views.
Why do you think mine's called Comic Book Investments? I literally I watched him, and I'm like, I'm gonna do something like that.
Yeah. So the market's really little too. Like the market that we're in is, I mean, you're talking about this 2 million. I've never seen a 2 million market or comic book channel, but most comic book channels are, you know, like you are like the top of the comic book.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably in top 5. There's like Comic Tom, Gem Mint. He does more statues now, but Swaggle House, he's pretty big. Mint Hunter, he's been growing. But yeah, it's a very small section of people.
And it gets depressing when you watch ETA Nick. And in my opinion, ETA Nick is like the very best investor, no nonsense. And he has 6,000 subscribers with like 400 views on average. I learned so much from that guy. I mean, just some things don't hit, but then I think of it in a different way. And it's like, he's a millionaire. He owns Action Comics #1. Like, in this one YouTube thing, he's not like, he doesn't get that external thing, but in life he's won.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. Like the thing is though, YouTube doesn't care how good you are at your job or how much good information you're providing. They only care about entertainment. YouTube's into entertainment. So there's a bunch of factors like watch time and click-through rate and all this kind of stuff. So if you're not very entertaining, it won't go anywhere. You could give out literally the best investment advice, best whatever advice, but if you're not entertaining, they don't care. And you won't go anywhere. You won't get pushed in the algorithm. On the other hand, you could be entertaining and literally just be feeding out lies and fraud and whatever, and you could just blow up because you make an entertaining video. It's like, oh, there's a lot of cuts here, and there's a lot of like, you know, a lot of flashy things going by, and you have high retention rate. So it's a different kind of game than just being like, oh, I'm gonna tell you really good advice. You know?
Yeah.
So I had a question. How much do you make from OnlyFans? You don't have to say if you don't want to. I'm just very curious.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of personal.
Okay.
I
mean, is it a lot? Is it like a little?
It's like a lot is like I make like 5,000 a month is like a normal month for me.
That's pretty good.
It is. It's good given it's like my first year.
Yeah.
And I just like do like 2 hours worth of work and then for a month, and then I'm set.
2 hours a month?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. So you're making like $2,500 an hour.
Yeah, it's like I do nothing and I just make money and I'm happy, and you know, I don't know, dude. I just hit the lottery.
That's really cool. Yeah. Hey. And so you use that basically. I'm assuming you don't talk about Pokemon cards on there.
Yeah, I do. I talk about like my life. I think of it as like a journal or like I treat it like an Instagram.
Oh.
there's also like unlockables. There's like nude paywalls, and
Oh, okay.
that's the way it works. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never. I mean, I've seen. I know what OnlyFans is, but I've never subscribed to anyone on there. I just thought it was all basically like pretty much porn.
It is. I think it is. I just don't care. I don't ever do what other people do, and most of the time it's like to my detriment. But in this one thing, it like worked out well.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing is like, I feel like everyone has a skill or something that they could add to society that is somewhat beneficial that you could make money from, and you
Yeah.
just kind of have to find what that is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't know what it is, but that's like your journey in life is to kind of go through life figuring out what that is, what you can add to society. And I'm not saying that you're going to be super rich, but I think, you'll enjoy it and maybe, make a little money that's decent.
That's kind of like the miracle of like your story, where it's like you are making money off of comic books, which I know that you grind and I know that you work your ass off. Like you can't have an auction house without doing that.
Yeah.
But like, just to start from the place where like you're making money off of comic books is you're starting from a place where like a blessed, like really.
Yeah, like if it wasn't for my dad, if I had to go in this, it's hard. Like I couldn't even fathom because I literally grew up around comic books, like from the day I was born. And when I was younger, all my brothers would always go out and play and stuff, and I always wanted to work for my dad. So I would just go to the shop behind the house, and I would stuff bags and backboards all day. And then eventually I got good enough where he'd let me grade, and I'm like 10. Like 11, and I'm grading comic books that he would sell to customers. And like I would go through stuff and organize things and all sorts of stuff. And so I always grew up, and I've always worked to get comic books. I never got money. I always worked. I'm like, oh, I want this comic book. So I'd work, and I don't know how he divvied up the hours, but he'd be like, oh, you worked enough. Here you go. Here's the comic. And it was definitely like, it took me months of working to get my Hulk 181.
I mean, that's why I do OnlyFans is like I work to get the Pikachu. Like, like that's my incentive.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
I have a question for you. What do you view, like, do you own like index funds? Do you own like stock market?
Yes.
Like, and like, what's your view? Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So, and I've done videos on this like back in the day. But yeah, I own stocks. The way I look at life is, so outside of music, I literally don't spend a dime on anything else because I don't know. Music is the only thing. Like obviously I go out and have food, but I don't have toys. I don't have and toys, I mean, like I'm not into cars or anything like that.
Okay.
So, but like basically it's like all my money, like obviously I work, and so I have comic books. So I consider like you want to have multiple avenues. So the avenues I have is I have my stocks. That's an avenue. I have stocks, mutual funds, and that's all diversified in itself. And then I also have real estate. So I save up enough money on the side to put a down payment on a house or something like that. And usually I fix it up because you can get a better deal if you fix it up. And then I also, have my comic books and stuff like that. So I diversify within stocks.
The real estate you're not living in.
What?
You're not living in the real estate that you own.
Yeah, I am. I do not rent.
Okay. So you consider that, so you're considering like your home, the real estate asset?
I have that, but I also have a rental. So what I do is I find a fixer-upper. This is just what I do. I find a fixer-upper. I buy it. I live in it as I'm fixing it up. And then at the same time, I'm saving up money for the next down payment because I do not want to ever sell real estate. I have in the past, but I don't ever want to do that because in the end, people have to live somewhere. And with all these corporations buying up all the single family homes, eventually you're going to get to the point where, there's not going to be anywhere to live and you're just going to have to rent. So, and I worked for a doctor and he would do the same thing. he'd buy up all this real estate, and I used to do his personal finance. And so when I left to do comic books, he was like a year or two away from paying off all his homes. And at the time, I think he was getting, this is like 15 years ago, he was getting probably like 25,000 a month in rents. And then so once his mortgages were all paid off, which would have been a couple of years after I left, and now it's probably way more than that, you know, because this was like 15 years ago. So now he's probably making $40,000 a month or so just off rents. And so it's like, you know, so that's like my plan is to base what?
Easy or not easy, but I just wondered this like all the time. Is it hard to deal with tenants?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. It is very hard. And I hate it so much.
Because that's what I've always wondered.
You could get good tenants and you could get bad tenants. But like right now, I moved into this place like 2 years ago, my current house, and then me and my wife are saving for the next house. And so then we'll upgrade from our current place, and then from the next place, and then we'll rent our current house out. And then, do it again and again and again. And that's how I do with real estate. And then with stocks, I also set money aside every single month and I buy stocks. And the way this is kind of like what I made up. I do a third, a third, and a third. A third of my income goes to living expenses. A third of my income goes to where I live, which is my real estate. And a third of my income goes into some type of investment, as in like stocks or mutual funds or whatever.
Wow.
So I've been doing that for more than a decade.
I love it when someone cares about like winning and just doing it well and caring about finances and just like being smart. Like that shit, I love that stuff too. It's like, working where you can budget and stuff like that.
I love budgeting. Why? I don't know. I just love, even when I was a little kid, I loved like counting money and everyone in my family was like, oh, you're going to be rich someday. I'm like, I don't know, hopefully. But I love like finance. And that's why I kind of like doing this channel, is because I like teaching. Because the crazy thing is, in my family, my immediate family and my entire family, no one invested in stocks other than me. I was the only one. I taught everyone. I taught my wife's parents, they had no idea. None of them knew anything about it. They didn't even and I started at 18 randomly. I don't know. I just liked the idea of it and I started investing. So that's why I kind of want to start a channel. I was like, well, I can teach people how to do this that might not know how to do it. And
what got you into money? Like, what was like the end goal? What was like the dream?
I had a dream. So I had a dream that I was going to get $1 million and I would have been set for life. And I would have bought all the cartoons I ever wanted and had them in like VHS. And then I could watch them and I could be retired and not have to work. And I would take my $1 million. I'd buy like a $500,000 house, put the rest into like stocks or something, giving me about a 10% return, and then live off that. Obviously, this was a long time ago, but now $1 million doesn't really do anything. That was my original thought when I was younger.
But the point is like, you can't get to a certain level of wealth where you're not working and the wealth is just like giving you money.
Yes, you want your money to work for you.
Yeah.
I will never stop working because I actually enjoy working. And working doesn't mean like I'm grinding at some dead-end job that I hate. Working just means I like building something and, continue to build it, whether it's a company, whether it's my music, whether it's the YouTube channel, something like that.
I have a question for you. Watching your channel, it feels like you're always furthering the auction house or you're furthering something. What does like stopping look like for you? Does that exist? What is like laying out on the grass, like just reading Chronicles of Narnia or like going back to some comic book? Like
I think about this often, actually. And I was actually having a conversation with my wife about a month ago, and I told her, I was like, I do not know what that feels like. I can't even like I can try to pretend to imagine it. It's like it's like pretend trying to be like, I don't know, this is gonna sound very dark, but like if you imagine like someone breaking your house and murdering you, like you can imagine it, but you can't actually understand it, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't really know. You just go off of things you've seen in movies and the ideas in your head. But the idea of me waking up with literally, I don't have to do anything and it's okay. I can't even really understand what that's like. Because
Mm.
for me, even if I didn't have comics and this business, I would find something else that I would just pour every waking hour into. Like that's the type of person I am. It's like, oh, I'm just like, let's say comics were done or I retired and I sold them all and something like that. I would like be doing YouTube crazy amounts more because I'm like, oh, I enjoy this and I want to build it. And like the idea of like, ooh, I just have to, how can I figure out how I'll spend hours, days just figuring like, how can I make a better YouTube video? What can I do? What, what kind of topic can I talk about? And I'll write all these things down and I'll just, try to get to them by limited time. I would do that way more. I would work on music way more. I would just never stop.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So the idea of like stopping and laying in the grass, I don't know. It's hard to understand.
Yeah.
Because even if I did go to, like when I went on vacation, which is rare, but when I did, I went to the Bahamas or something, and I was in an all-inclusive resort, and we just sat on the beach. You know what I was doing? I was working. I was buying comic books and like on the beach. There's like a nice beach. I have my what I had a White Russian. I love those things.
Oh, I fucking love White Russians, dude.
Yeah. And I was sitting there on my laptop just working, using the Wi-Fi and just, and I'd be like, oh, there's the ocean. Okay, cool. Let's go in a little bit. Okay, let's go back and work. And I'll think about things, way to work. Maybe I'll work on YouTube and think of scripts and start writing scripts. That's all I did. There is no stop.
I think that's a good lesson for the viewers. Is like, if you want to be a successful X and be financially independent at passion Y, like do it as much as you can.
Yeah.
Like that's important for people to learn, I think, or to know.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's not an easy life. It would be easier if I could just clock in, turn my brain off and go do something. But even when I worked a normal 9-to-5 job, I was coming up with different companies. I tried starting a clothing brand. I tried starting this penny auction website. So I was always doing something. I don't know. What about you? Are you into like stocks and investing and stuff like that?
Yeah, dude, I fucking love that shit.
Oh, really?
I'm like always moving, but like before I had a baby, I was like moving towards what I loved. And so I would like have a lot of time to sit down and create, but also a lot of time I just had a lot of time where it felt restful and productive. And now that I have baby, it's like intentionally, I'm getting more in touch with like, if I have free time, let's create some art. If I have free time, like intentionally sitting down and doing it.
Now, when you say art, I'm assuming you mean you're writing?
Writing and drawing and coding.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It's hard to like, for me, like when I'm doing like music and it's like, oh, I have a spare hour and I'm like, I'm gonna sit down. It's like hard to like, okay, creative juices, turn it on.
I think with baby, I have to do that because like, if I don't sit down and just like, okay, let's go, then creative juices are like, I have an hour and a half to a free time and that's it. And then it's gone,
Yeah.
So it's just taught me, it's like rewired my brain a little bit to like sit down and with intention.
Yeah. It's definitely a hard thing to do, but because sometimes inspiration comes, when you're like busy or something like that. But thankfully I have a job where I just stop working, pick up my guitar and then start playing.
Yeah.
And then, so it's not that big of a deal. I don't have a kid yet. So
But you
But
asked about stocks and stuff. Like that stuff is just fun for me. Like I watch Rudy, but I watch his like whiteboard videos. Like I try not to watch like the drama stuff. So like
mm,
I'll watch like let's talk about bonds, or I'll watch ETA Nick on the stock market stuff. A lot of it's been Rudy recently, just talking about like markets and
I
um,
like those videos too,
yeah,
as opposed to the Magic stuff. I like Magic, but I mean, I play Magic every day, but I just don't like watching that stuff
yeah.
as
Like
much.
let's learn about bonds. Why are bonds cool? Like let's learn
Mm,
about stuff, bear market, bull market, stuff like that. And that I just it does something happy for my brain where I can go to sleep and then um so yeah, but like I didn't I grew up with Hugh Hefner being my father, so I didn't really need money. Like,
mm,
and so uh there was no like joy of, and so I needed collecting. Like when I found collecting and I was like, I want this crazy card that's just ridiculous. Then my passion was like, okay, how can I make this work? Then the problem thought. So collecting really got me into finances. And I have a feeling, and something I've noticed is like people who are into collectibles, not just like making like uh, clickbait stuff, but like really into collecting and like comics for the long term, I feel like they're probably good with money because like they learn markets, and
yeah.
that's just something I've noticed. I don't know if you've noticed that, but like
I don't know. It's hard to say.
yeah,
I mean, because like growing up, all the people that I knew that were into collecting were other dealers, and they would come over to my dad's house, and I would see them at Comic Cons. And I guess I would imagine so because you have to have extra money. Like you can't be like, "Hey, I have my comic collection, but I'm homeless on the street." You have
yeah,
to have some kind of financial, I guess, prowess to have extra money to spend on something as expensive as cards and comic books.
yeah. I feel
But
like maybe they can get limited by like maybe they stop their learning at like comic books. But like if I'm interested in money, then that's going to go into like the S&P 500 or like real estate, or like I just want to learn how to make money so then I can like purchase more collectibles. But yeah, so it's been an awesome journey for me, and I've made what I thought were mistakes and then they turned out not to be mistakes. Like I purchased that Amazing Fantasy 15, looking
oh,
back on it.
e- even I don't know when you bought it or all the details, but I'll tell you this:
Yeah.
that is a great book. Like if there's one book that if you have, well, I mean, unless you have an action number one or something like that, which is beyond most people read. But if you have enough money to purchase in the realm of an AF-15, I would
Yeah.
say buy an AF-15. I
Yeah.
mean, is it restored?
Ah, bro, Blue Label.
Okay, good, good. Well, I don't know.
It's got Marvel chipping, but Marvel chipping doesn't bother me. I don't know if it bothers
Yeah,
other people, but
it doesn't really bother. The reason why there's Marvel chipping is the blade was like get dull after a while, and they wouldn't replace the blade because they were lazy and
yeah,
probably wanted to save money, and so would chip it. So they kind of came that way. But if you have enough money to buy a AF-15, I would recommend it all day long. Even if you bought it at like the ridiculous high prices, eventually, like with comic books, the problem is a lot of people have in their mind they think comics are Bitcoin and crypto, and they're like, I want to buy it today and I want to sell it tomorrow for 20x. And I'm like, that's not how it works.
yeah,
Like this is like steady Eddie. Like it's slowly going to go up over time. And the thing is with comics that makes it such a great and not only just an investable thing is you get to enjoy it. It's cool. It's not like my stocks. It's just a number on a screen. It's not like I have like anything that's tangible that's like, ooh, I really want this. And a lot of people ask me, it's like, should I get this book or this book? And I always go, both are great. Which one do you like more? They're like, well, I like this one. It's like, they're both fine. Like they're both good investments. So it's like I would suggest if you're coming from an investor's point of view, like there's certain books to get, but then also weigh in what do you want as
yeah,
well.
yeah. I totally agree with that. I was gonna get an X-Men one, and then there were no X-Men one like on the auction, and I was like, I can move it to Amazing Fantasy 15. I don't read Spider-Man. I actually don't even like Spider-Man. I love the X-Men.
Hey, what are you?
I know.
This guy over here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my God, he's right there. I'm sorry, sir. But like, I regretted that purchase for a while. And now I'm just thinking of it as like pure investment. It's nice. I wish, looking back on it, like you said, you know, I just wish that I had put it into an S&P 500 index or put it into Pokemon, because that's what I love. But I'm just looking at these like auction prices and then the taxes, and then like stocks are just so you don't have to worry about the fees. It's like, so I'm making these mistakes along the way where it's like, okay, I probably could have put that into stocks, but I'm not sure about that. You know, I could see 5 years from now it just like outperforming or performing as well.
The S&P 500 has historically been about 10% return a year over the last like 50, 60, 70 years or whatever it is. So that's the kind of return you can expect on the S&P 500. I know a Fantasy 15 has been more than that. Now, obviously, it's come down since the comic boom has, you know, kind of brought it down. But I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, getting into the weeds of it, where it's like 18% clear for capital gains, and then but for comic books, it's income taxes, which are, I guess it would depend on the state, and then eBay fees. So it really does depend on how much you're going to get taxed for the AF-15. If it's around 18%, but then eBay, what does eBay take again?
So depending on the value of the book, because they do have a hard cap at their max fee is like $750. I believe that's what it is. It'll go up in time. So,
yeah. So I guess worry less. It'll go up in time. But some of this stuff does, it just interests me. It's like, well, what are the penalty differences? Because I think that would be really important to know for anybody like purchasing these assets, where it's like, okay, capital gains is clear. And then like, but what is like the cost of this freaking really expensive book? And that's what I'm trying to figure out. And it seems like maybe around 20-25% for me, but if you're somewhere else, it's just different. So it's just something important for me to answer, I think, for myself and for others as well. Because do I think AF-15 is going to grow? Like, yeah, it's already doing better. It's already doing better. So I'm happy about that. And that's what makes me happy, is just like, I did all my homework. I watched your channel. I watched ETA Nick. I was studying this stuff like nonstop because I was just obsessed. And then I ended up with the AF-15, which is starting to appreciate, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, I think it's a good book, and I think, you know, it's as hard now to look at things now because things, I mean, the economy's not as great and this and that, but eventually it'll turn around. Everything turns around eventually. So yeah, I think having that AF-15 is a fantastic buy. I would recommend it all day long. I mean, I have two myself. Two? Yes, two.
Dude, I bought it at like such a good price. I bought it at 50,000, and the lowest was like the next sale. Like the next two sales went for like 43. And now it's already like the last sale, you know, it's already stabilized. So I'm very happy in an awful bear market where everything's at zero. Like my AF-15 is at where I purchased it. So
oh yeah, that's good. That's good. That's very, very good.
Oh,
what is that?
I don't know. I think it knew that like I put my thumbs up. Did you do that?
No, I didn't do that. I think it's you. Wait, do I get one? No, I don't get one. Just you. Nope, I don't get one. For some reason, you get one. I don't know. Maybe I have to do like this.
I'm on the mobile, bro. You're not on the mobile.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, you got hearts. That's funny. I never knew that. Um, yeah. Cool, man. I mean, yeah. I guess like, is there anything else?
You ever wanted to own a Playboy #1?
I have.
Do you own one?
Currently, no. I've owned. So funny story. So when me and my brother first started, when I grew up, you're gonna hate this, but when I grew up, like I said, my parents were very strict. My dad threw away Playboy #1, and he said at the time it was like one of the highest grades, and he threw it away because he's like, I don't deal in that filth. He got a collection, and he's like, threw it away. Compared to now, Playboy #1, very tame, very tame.
Yeah.
And so he threw it away. And so when we started this business, I got an opportunity to buy a Playboy #1. And I asked my brother, I was like, do you care if we sell this? He's like, no, I don't care. I'm like, okay, just want to make sure. But yeah, we got a Playboy I've gotten multiple #1s, and there's a couple variants to it. There's a page 3, and there's the red star, and then there's the normal one.
It's not on Go Collect. I can't find it on Go Collect. They don't consider it a comic, I think.
So there's maybe they don't put Playboys up there.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah. So, but I've had a couple in my time. Did you know? I want to know if you know this. Here's some comic history.
Jack Cole and stuff.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Oh, you didn't know?
Did they do like the nude? Like, did they do the cartoon strips or what?
Yeah. So I think it started with issue either 3, 4, or 6. I can't remember which one. But Jack Cole was a pretty big comic book artist. He created Plastic Man and a bunch of others in the Golden Age, and then he started working for Playboy, working for your dad, and he did like the pinup drawings, so the classic pinup drawings, and then he ended up, I don't know, many years he worked there. He ended up having to borrow money from your dad at one point. I don't know, he probably had like an addiction or alcohol problem or something. But anyways, I guess him and your dad were like really good friends because he ended up killing himself, and he wrote 2 letters, one to his wife and one to your dad.
Wow.
So, did he ever mention him? I don't really know if this was in the 50s. So
I've never heard of Jack Cole. I follow comics, I mostly Marvel, and I haven't heard of Jack Cole in the Marvel universe, and I didn't know him with the Playboy relation either. I'm sure he got paid really well because Playboy treated their artists really well.
Yeah, I mean he was pretty big in the beginning era, but he would have worked on stuff that wasn't part of Marvel, and this would have been in the 40s and late 30s. So, but just he's like a classic Golden Age artist. But yeah, I think it might have been early 60s or late 50s that he killed himself. But yeah,
Wow.
there's a connection there. You guys have a connection. I mean, I don't know if maybe what happened to all that stuff?
What stuff?
Like the original art and all the stuff that went into making a Playboy magazine.
That's a great question. My dad had a scrapbook with a bunch of stuff, but it didn't have like the original copies and stuff like that. So I don't know where it went, and I honestly don't think it exists anymore. I'm not sure where.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like a Playboy like archive or something where they would
yeah there's like a Hugh Marston Hefner Foundation, and they just like keep all that stuff. And I'm trying to get them to put it all in my house and then slowly sell it on eBay. No.
So I mean, if some of that stuff in there, it'd be worth quite a bit. The original stuff.
Some of it is like worth more than, like, it's valued in my head more than the market values it. Like I have like this he was on The Simpsons, and I gotta go soon because my phone like is running out of battery.
Okay.
But he was in The Simpsons, and it was my favorite episode. I was like, wow, my dad's in The Simpsons. Oh my god, that's so cool. And Matt Groening and the studio gave him a Hef jacket, Letterman's jacket that says Hef on it, and then there's Bart Simpson, and there's like, I just think that's dope as fuck. Like watching, like I'm just imagining like a big time collector or me like putting on that jacket and watching Sunday morning cartoons, watching Futurama or Family Guy, American Dad, and like knowing that that was my dad. I would price that at $10,000. Like I have these things that I would price it at, and even 10,000, like I wouldn't give it up for 10,000.
Yeah.
But the market doesn't care as much about this stuff.
Yeah, sentimental value.
My dad had a watch that he would wear everywhere and went for like $400.
Really?
Yeah. And I know how important that watch was to him, but the public doesn't know that that was his favorite watch.
Interesting.
I have my father's backgammon dice. They say HMH inscribed into it, HMH dice. And I'm not getting rid of those at all. What's the price of that?
Exactly. Some things aren't worth selling.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. I have some HMH Monopoly money that I could see selling, like slowly trickling out.
Mm-hmm.
But some stuff, yeah, you're right. It just doesn't make sense where it's to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's better to just keep it. Well, on that, I guess we can end it here. It was great talking to you. Is anything you want to say to the viewers?
Honestly, it's like I'm still like in a Twilight Zone episode. Like what I feel like I'm watching you on YouTube, but we're like I'm out of like I'm in a Twilight Zone episode right now. So I'm just like I think it's awesome that you had me on. Thank you for having me on. And you know, like you're a hero for a lot of people. Like a lot of people look up to you. A lot of people like think you're awesome. And I learned a lot because you don't get any rest and relaxation. And like I feel like I'm kind of tuning into that mode myself now that I'm a dad. And so it's just nice to know like what successful people, smart people are like, how you're living your life. So I just know that I'm doing it right. So yeah, thank you. Grateful.
Awesome. Well, on that note, have a good day, everyone.
Ta-ta.